She was humiliated by her millionaire husband, ignored like she didn't exist, until a gentle stranger showed her what true respect felt like. But what happened when her husband saw them together that night left the entire room frozen in shock. Stay tuned because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. The sound of raindrops echoed softly against the wide glass windows of the Harrison mansion, a home that looked like a palace from the outside but felt like an empty shell inside. Emma Harrison stood by the window, her reflection blending with the night. She wore a simple white robe, her hair loose and slightly messy from another sleepless night. The clock on the wall ticked past 11:30 p.m., and once again, her husband, Richard, was not home. Once upon a time, this very house was filled with laughter. The smell of freshly baked bread, the sound of two voices teasing each other, the warmth of love, all gone. Now, silence ruled every corner. Emma had always believed in love. She grew up in a small town, raised by parents who taught her that kindness and loyalty meant more than wealth. When she met Richard 5 years ago, he was charming and humble, or so she thought. He owned a small hotel back then, and he would always tell her, "Emma, one day I'll make enough money to give you the world." She didn't care about the world. All she wanted was him, the man who laughed at her silly jokes, who danced with her in the rain, who said she was his reason for breathing. But dreams, as she later learned, sometimes come with a price. Richard's rise to success was fast. Within 4 years, his business empire stretched across several cities. The same man who once adored Emma now came home in expensive suits, his phone glued to his hand, his tone sharp and cold. Emma would wait at the dining table with dinner carefully prepared, his favorite creamy pasta, grilled salmon, and lemon tea, but he never showed up. She would keep the food warm for hours, hoping to hear his car pull into the driveway. When it finally did, her heart would jump, only to fall again when he walked straight past her, muttering, "I've already eaten." Then he would lock himself in his office or fall asleep on the couch. No goodnight kiss. No, "I love you." Just silence. Emma tried everything to bring him back. She wore the blue dress he once said made her look like the sky. She left him sweet notes in his briefcase. She even planned a surprise dinner on their anniversary with candles and soft jazz music. But that night, he never came home. When he finally returned past midnight, his tie loosened, and his shirt smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers, Emma's heart cracked. "Richard," she whispered, her voice trembling, "do you still love me?" He didn't even look at her. He poured himself a glass of whiskey and said flatly, "Emma, not everything is about love. Grow up. Life isn't a fairy tale." She stood frozen, watching the man she loved walk away without a hint of guilt. Tears rolled down her cheeks, silent but endless. She sat on the floor that night, staring at the flickering candle that was supposed to celebrate their love. Instead, it burned alone, just like her heart. Days turned into weeks, and Emma found herself trapped in a cycle of pain. She'd wake up early to make breakfast he never ate, smile for a man who never smiled back, and sleep next to someone who felt like a stranger. Even the house staff noticed the sadness in her eyes. "Ma'am, maybe you should rest," her maid, Clara, said gently one morning. Emma forced a smile. "I'm fine, Clara. He's just busy." But deep down, she knew the truth. He wasn't busy. He was distant. Each evening, Emma sat by the large window overlooking the garden. The flowers she had once planted together with Richard were now withering. She used to talk to him about her dreams of starting a charity for poor children, but now she only talked to the wind. Sometimes, she looked at her wedding ring and wondered if it still meant anything. One Friday evening, while she was scrolling through old photos on her phone, pictures of them laughing at the beach, dancing at their wedding, and kissing under fireworks, a painful realization struck her. She wasn't just unloved. She was invisible. That night, she stood before the mirror and whispered, "Maybe he doesn't see me anymore, because I stopped seeing myself." She wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and decided she wouldn't let her loneliness define her. The next morning, she put on a simple sky blue dress and drove into the city to clear her head. She didn't know that this simple decision, to step outside her pain, would change everything. Because at a small cafe downtown, fate was waiting, in the form of a kind stranger who would soon bring light back into her fading world. The city was slow that morning. A soft breeze moved the yellow leaves along the sidewalk, and the sky looked pale and calm. Emma parked her car on a quiet street and walked toward a small corner cafe with warm lights and clean glass doors. A bell chimed gently when she pushed the door open. Inside, the cafe felt safe. The smell of cinnamon and fresh bread wrapped around her like a hug. A low piano song played in the background. People spoke in soft voices. No one looked at her with pity. No one knew her story. She loved that. Emma chose a table by the window. She could see the little world outside. Cars, umbrellas, a mother with a stroller, a boy tying his shoelace. She placed her bag on the chair and ordered a plain latte and a butter croissant. Simple, warm, comforting. She took a deep breath and tried to relax. She told herself, "Just breathe, Emma. No pressure. No pretending." She looked at her ring, then turned it gently so the diamond faced her palm. Today, she didn't want to shine for anyone. She only wanted to feel human again. As she reached into her bag for a tissue, a light gray scarf slipped out and fell to the floor without her noticing. A moment later, a calm voice spoke beside her. "Excuse me," the voice said. "Is this yours?" Emma looked up. A man stood there, holding the fallen scarf with both hands like it was something important. He had kind eyes, not too sharp, not too soft, just honest. He wore a simple navy jacket, a white shirt, and a wristwatch with a brown leather strap. His hair was neat, and there was a gentleness in the way he stood. No rush, no pressure. "Yes," Emma said, surprised. "Thank you." She reached for the scarf. Their hands did not touch, but the moment still felt warm. "I'm Ethan," he said with a small smile. "Ethan Cole. I usually sit over there." He nodded toward the corner table, where a sketchbook, a pencil, and a cup of black coffee waited. "I sketch buildings when I'm stuck on ideas. The coffee helps." "Buildings?" Emma asked, curious despite herself. "I'm an architect," he replied. "Mostly community centers and small schools. Places where people meet and feel safe." He paused, then added softly, "Places that remind you to breathe." Something about that line touched her. She smiled, lightly, carefully, like a flower opening its first petal. "I'm Emma," she said. "Thank you for the scarf." "You're welcome," Ethan said. He looked at her for a second as if checking whether she wanted to be left alone. Seeing no fear in her eyes, only a quiet tiredness, he asked, "May I sit for a minute? If you'd prefer to be alone, I completely understand." Emma surprised herself. "You can sit." He pulled the chair out slowly, sitting across from her with respectful distance. The waitress placed Emma's latte and croissant on the table. The foam had a small leaf drawn in it. Emma stared at it, smiling again, this time a little stronger. "Nice art," she said, pointing to his sketchbook. "Do you draw people too?" "Sometimes," Ethan answered. "But I prefer places. People are too alive." He laughed softly. "They move." Then, after a moment, he added, "I draw people when my heart insists." Emma felt something shift, like a lock turning inside her. She sipped her latte. It was warm and sweet. She looked at Ethan and saw no pride, no ego, no need to impress. Only presence. Only kindness. "What do you do, Emma?" he asked gently. She held the cup with both hands. The answer was simple, but the truth was complicated. "I organize charity outreach sometimes," she said. "I want to build something for children, health, food, school supplies. It's still in my heart." She paused. "I lost myself a bit." "Life can do that," Ethan said. He didn't ask for details. He didn't push her to explain. But when the heart remembers, it whispers. "What does it whisper?" Emma asked, almost like a child. "That you're still here," he said, "and that you still matter." Silence rested between them, not heavy, not awkward, just peaceful. Outside, a bus passed. The bell on the cafe door chimed twice. Somewhere behind the counter, a milk frother hissed. Emma broke a piece of her croissant and ate it slowly. "My husband is a busy man," she said at last, choosing her words carefully. "Sometimes I feel like a shadow. I keep giving, but I can't find myself in the giving anymore." Ethan held her words with care. "I'm sorry," he said. "That must hurt." "It does," she replied, her voice steady but soft. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. The truth itself was enough. He nodded. "I lost someone a few years ago," he said. "My wife. She was kind. Since then, I try to notice the world more. The small things. They keep me alive." He looked at the window, the mother, the boy, the wind. "I don't know your pain, but I know what empty feels like." Emma looked into his eyes. There was no pity there, only understanding. "Thank you," she said, "for not asking too much." "I won't," he replied, "but I'll listen if you ever want to talk." The waitress returned with water. Ethan thanked her and moved his sketchbook to make room. A loose page slipped out, clean lines, soft pencil shading. It was an open courtyard with a tree in the center, benches around it, sunlight falling through square lattices. "It's beautiful," Emma said. "It's a place where people can rest," Ethan explained. "I'm hoping to add a small clinic room in one corner. 4 free checkups. I want children to feel brave when they come in." Emma's eyes brightened. "That's exactly the kind of place I dream about," she said. "A space that heals without scaring." He smiled. "Maybe you could help me think it through, what mothers need, what children need. Real things, not just good-looking walls." Emma felt something bloom inside her chest. Interest, hope, purpose. "I would love that," she said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. They spoke for nearly an hour, about play corners, soft chairs, reading lamps, free snacks on Fridays, a tiny garden where children could touch leaves and learn their names. They spoke like two people who remembered how to care. When Emma finally stood to leave, the sky had turned brighter. She wrapped the gray scarf around her neck. Ethan closed his sketchbook and remained seated. "Thank you for sitting with me," she said. "Thank you for trusting me," he replied. "Would it be all right if I sent you the sketch when I add your ideas?" Emma hesitated for half a second, then nodded. "All right." She wrote her name and a number on the corner of a napkin, her project line, not her private one. Safe, respectful, clear. She slid it toward him. Ethan didn't even glance at the number right away. He kept his eyes on her, kind and calm. "No pressure," he said. "If any day feels heavy, you can just send it up. I'll understand." A laugh, light and surprised, escaped her. "Da." He repeated, smiling. "It says, 'I'm here, but I have no words today.'" Emma nodded. "I like that." She stepped toward the door, then paused and looked back. "Ethan?" "Yes. You said people are too alive to draw," she said, voice playful for the first time in a long while. "Draw me someday. Not today. But someday, when my eyes look like me again." Ethan's answer was simple. "I will." The bell chimed as she left. Outside, the breeze lifted her scarf and cooled her cheeks. The city no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a road. She walked slowly to her car, not because she was weak, but because she wanted to feel every step. In the reflection of the car window, she saw herself, no diamonds, no performance, just Emma. And she smiled, small but true. That evening, back at the mansion, she placed a notebook on the dining table and began to write ideas for the children's center, colored corners, story hours, a brave chair for anyone getting a checkup, little stars on the ceiling that glow at night. Her hand moved easily, almost happy. Her phone rested beside the notebook. It did not ring. No one disturbed her. The house stayed quiet. But for once, the silence did not feel cruel. It felt like space. When she finally looked up, the clock showed 9:10 p.m. The front door opened. Richard walked in, expensive suit, tired eyes, strong scent of cologne. He paused in the doorway, surprised. Emma was smiling to herself, pen in hand, eyes bright with a new light he did not recognize. "Working on something?" Richard asked, his voice careful. Emma closed the notebook gently. Yes, she said, calm and clear. Something important. Richard nodded slowly, uncertain, a new discomfort tugging at him. He walked past her to hang his jacket, but for the first time in months, he felt invisible. Later, when Emma went to bed, her phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. Ethan, added a reading nook near the garden. Your brave chair is my favorite note. Thank you, Emma. For today. If tomorrow is heavy, send it. Emma smiled in the dark and typed a simple reply. Tomorrow will not be heavy. Not anymore. She placed the phone on the nightstand and turned off the lamp. Outside, the wind shifted, as if the city itself was moving with her. Morning light slid across the bedroom wall like a slow river. Emma woke before her alarm, not from worry, but from a quiet energy she hadn't felt in months. She showered, wore a soft cream blouse and a simple navy skirt, tied her hair in a low bun, and stood at the mirror. Her eyes looked steadier today. She smiled at her reflection. Not big, just honest. Downstairs, she made tea and opened her notebook. She added small details to the plan with quick, neat handwriting. Brave chair with a soft blanket. Reading nook with warm lamps. Free snacks every Friday afternoon. A wall where children can hang drawings. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, I found a supplier who donates books. Can I show you an updated sketch at the cafe? Emma, yes. 11 a.m. I'll be there. She closed the notebook and finished her tea. When she stood to leave, Richard walked into the kitchen, adjusting his cufflinks. His eyes moved over her outfit. You're going out? He asked. Yes, she said calmly. I have a meeting. With who? His tone was light, but there was a small edge inside it. An architect, she replied. We're building a plan for a children's center. Richard lifted one eyebrow, then shrugged as if it were nothing. Don't be late for dinner. He picked up his keys and left first, but when the door closed, he was the one thinking about her. The cafe felt like a warm breath after rain. Ethan was already there, a pencil tucked behind his ear, sketchbook open. He looked up and smiled, kind, steady. I added your ideas, he said, sliding the sketchbook toward her. The brave chair sits under a small star ceiling. They glow softly at night. Emma traced the outline with her eyes. It's perfect, she whispered. The children will be less scared. They bent over the pages together, two heads close but not touching. He listened as she spoke. She listened as he refined. They discussed real things, where to place the hand-washing sink, how high the shelves should be, which door should lead to the garden. It wasn't flirting. It wasn't fantasy. It was purpose. It was healing. When they were done, Ethan leaned back. You're different today, he said gently. More you. I feel more me, she replied. Thank you for making space for that. He nodded once, not making the moment heavy. You did that. They shared a quiet smile and set a time to meet the following afternoon at an empty lot his firm was considering for the project. Emma left the cafe with her notes tucked to her chest like a small, safe treasure. Across town, Richard sat at the head of a long boardroom table, but his mind wandered. His team discussed numbers, dates, renovations. He heard words but not meaning. All he could see in his head was Emma's calm face by the kitchen counter that morning. His phone buzzed on the table. Ava, assistant sir, your driver reports Madam stopped at Bluestone Cafe at 10:59 a.m. Richard stared at the message. Why do I care? He asked himself. Then the answer cut through him like cold glass, because she had looked alive. He leaned back, jaw tight. For months, he had walked past her as if she were air. Now the idea of her laughing at a table with a stranger made a heat he didn't like rise under his skin. Richard? A director asked. Your approval? Approved, he said quickly, even though he hadn't heard the proposal. That evening, Emma set 2 plates on the dining table, simple rice, baked fish, and vegetables. She didn't obsess over whether he'd eat. She just cooked because she wanted food that tasted like calm. Richard came in later than her, but earlier than usual. He stopped when he saw the table set, the soft light, the quiet music. Emma didn't rush toward him. She sat and served herself. You didn't wait, he said, surprised. I was hungry, she replied, not unkindly. He sat. For a while, they ate in silence. He watched her, and the longer he watched, the more unsettled he felt. Her shoulders were straighter. Her eyes were clear. She wasn't begging for his attention. She wasn't even trying to read his mood. She had her own. What's making you this cheerful? He asked at last. Emma lifted her eyes. Work. Plans. People who listen. People, he repeated, his spoon pausing. Who, exactly? A professional I'm collaborating with, she said. His name is Ethan. He's an architect. We're building something good, Richard. Something sharp flashed in his chest. And he makes you smile like that? He makes the work easier, she said simply. The smile is mine. He put his spoon down, jaw tight. Emma, I don't like this. She folded her napkin and spoke in a calm voice. You don't have to like what heals me, but you should respect it. The edge inside him snapped. Respect? I am your husband. She held his gaze. Then be one. The words were soft, but they hit like a stone dropped into a still lake. Richard stood, the chair scraping the floor. He reached for a glass and misjudged the motion. It fell and broke against the tile. They both froze. The sound hung in the air. Emma stood slowly, picked up a broom, and began to sweep. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She gathered the sharp pieces with careful hands, dropped them into the bin, and washed her fingers under the tap. Then she said, with the same quiet voice, "We can talk when you're ready to hear me." She walked out, leaving him alone with the broken glass and the echo of his own anger. The next afternoon, Emma met Ethan at the empty lot. It wasn't much, just rough earth, a few stubborn weeds, and a fence that leaned a little. But in her mind, she could already see the center. The front door, the garden path, children's voices floating through warm air. They measured the edges, marked points with chalk, laughed when the chalk snapped, and started again. Ethan showed her a sample wall color, soft sand, easy on the eyes. Hospitals often use colors that feel cold, he said. I want this place to feel like a hug. Like a hug, Emma repeated, smiling. A car parked across the street. The engine turned off, but the driver did not get out. Neither of them noticed. Inside the car, Richard watched, hands tight on the steering wheel. He told himself he had only come to see what was going on. But as he watched them, heads bent over a tape measure, faces lit by shared purpose, his stomach knotted. He had dismissed Emma's dreams for months. Now someone else was treating those dreams like gold. Emma and Ethan finished making notes. They stood by the gate, talking. Their conversation was not romantic. It was respectful, warm, steady, everything he had not been. When they shook hands goodbye, it was simple and clean. Still, the handshake burned in Richard's mind like a brand. That night, he paced his study. The city lights looked cold through the glass. He poured a drink and didn't touch it. He picked up his phone, put it down again. Jealousy and shame wrestled inside him, tearing through the layers he had used to excuse his neglect. He finally walked out and found Emma in the living room, sketching a small hand-washing station for the center. She didn't look up when he entered, but she didn't look away when he spoke. I saw you today, he said, voice low. At the lot. With him. She quietly closed her notebook. I won't hide work I'm proud of. He took a step closer, searching her face for anger, for guilt, for anything he could fight against. There was none. Only calm. Only a woman who had found herself and was not planning to lose that again. Are you seeing him? The words came out rough. I'm seeing my life, she answered. He respects it. Silence fell again. Not the old heavy silence, but a new one. The kind that asks for a choice. Emma, he said at last, and his voice cracked a little. Come to the hotel gala with me on Friday. Please. He swallowed. I want to fix things. She studied his face for a long moment. The foundation is presenting the children's center plan at that gala, she said. I invited Ethan as a community partner. He deserves to be there. Richard's jaw tightened, then loosened. He looked away, then back. Fine, he said. Then we'll all be there. Emma nodded once. We will. When he left the room, she sank into the sofa and exhaled slowly. She did not know what Friday would bring, but she knew who she would be when it came. Upstairs, Richard stood alone in the doorway of their dark bedroom, the truth settling at last. If he did not choose love now, real love, the kind that listens, he might lose the woman who had waited too long. He closed his eyes and made a silent promise he didn't yet know how to keep. The night of the gala arrived like a storm wrapped in glitter. The ballroom of the Royal Crest Hotel gleamed with gold chandeliers and polished marble floors. Waiters in crisp black uniforms carried trays of champagne. Cameras flashed, laughter floated in the air, and soft jazz music filled the background. Emma stood near the entrance, her hands clasped lightly in front of her. She wore a long emerald green gown that shimmered under the light. Her hair was swept into an elegant bun, a few soft curls framing her face. She looked calm, composed, and, without meaning to, radiant. Ethan arrived a few minutes later, dressed in a dark suit. When he saw her, he smiled warmly. You look happy, he said softly. I feel at peace, Emma replied. And thank you for coming. It means a lot. You deserve tonight, he said. Your dream is finally becoming real. Their conversation was gentle, quiet, respectful. Ethan admired her strength, and Emma admired his kindness. They weren't lovers. They were two people who had helped each other heal. But from across the room, Richard saw only closeness, and it made his heart twist. Richard entered the ballroom wearing a black tuxedo, his tie perfectly straight, but his heart beating unevenly. Everyone greeted him, the famous hotel magnate, the man with everything. But as he looked at his wife, smiling and talking with Ethan, he realized that he had nothing that truly mattered. He walked toward them, his expression unreadable. Guests turned their heads. Whispers followed. Emma noticed him coming and took a deep breath. She was ready. Good evening, Richard said stiffly. Good evening, Emma replied politely. You remember Ethan Cole? He's the architect leading our Children's Center project. Yes, Richard said slowly. I've heard a lot about him. Ethan smiled, unfazed by the tension. Good to finally meet you, Mr. Harrison. Your wife has a great vision. It's been an honor to help make it real. Richard's jaw tightened. Yes, she's full of surprises lately. Emma felt the sting behind those words, but she didn't let it show. She turned back to Ethan. Let's take our seats. The presentation is about to start. When Emma walked up to the stage a few minutes later, the room quieted. She stood at the podium with confidence, holding her notes. Behind her, a large screen showed images of the planned Children's Center, soft colors, open spaces, and smiling faces. Good evening, everyone, she began. Her voice was clear and steady. This project is very close to my heart. For years, I've seen how easily people lose hope when they don't feel seen. This center will be a home for children who need light, love, and care. It will remind them that they matter. Applause filled the room. Some people even stood. Richard watched her in awe. The woman speaking on that stage was not the quiet, broken wife he had ignored. She was strong, radiant, and full of purpose. And he realized with painful clarity that his neglect had almost destroyed that light. When she finished, Ethan stepped up to thank her and explain the design. They stood side by side, partners in vision, not romance, but the sight still pierced Richard's chest. Later that evening, when the crowd moved to the dining area, Richard found Emma standing alone near the balcony, gazing at the city lights. The night air was cool. Her gown swayed gently in the breeze. He approached quietly. You are incredible up there, he said. She turned slightly, surprised by the softness in his tone. Thank you. Emma, he continued, his voice lower now. I know I don't deserve to say much, but I'm sorry for everything. I forgot who you were. I forgot who we were. She stayed silent, watching the skyline. I was proud, he admitted. I thought success would make me complete, but it only made me blind. Seeing you tonight, I remembered the woman I fell in love with, the one who believed in me when I was nobody. Emma turned fully toward him. There was pain in her eyes, but there was also a flicker of the warmth he used to know. "Richard," she said softly, "I didn't stop loving you because you got rich. I stopped feeling loved when you stopped seeing me." He swallowed hard. "I see you now," he whispered. She looked down. "You say that tonight because you're scared of losing me." He nodded, shame filling his chest. "You're right. I am scared. I've been scared since I realized you can smile without me." Emma sighed, her voice calm but full of feeling. "I needed to find myself again, Richard. The woman you married disappeared trying to make you happy. Ethan didn't bring her back, I did. He just reminded me that I still mattered." "I know," Richard said quickly. "I was jealous, but not because of him. I was jealous because he gave you peace, the peace I should have given you." Tears filled his eyes, but he didn't hide them. "Please, Emma. I'll change. I'll do anything to rebuild what I broke." She studied him for a long, silent moment. Then she said gently, "Change because it's right, not because you're afraid. If you truly love me, show it through respect, not promises." At that moment, Ethan appeared at the balcony door. He sensed the weight between them and stopped. "I'll give you two a moment," he said kindly. "Emma, thank you for tonight. You've inspired many people, including me." She smiled faintly. "Thank you, Ethan, for everything." He nodded to Richard before leaving, his presence as calm as ever. Richard watched him go, realizing that the man he had envied wasn't his enemy. He was a mirror of the kind of man he used to be. When they were alone again, Emma took a step closer to Richard. "You hurt me deeply," she said quietly. "But I still believe people can change. I forgive you, Richard, but forgiveness doesn't erase pain. It takes time." He nodded, voice trembling. "Then I'll wait. As long as it takes." She looked at him, saw the truth in his eyes, and slowly took his hand. For the first time in months, he didn't feel her pulling away. They stood together, watching the lights shimmer across the city. The music from inside floated through the balcony doors, soft, tender, hopeful. "I never wanted money," Emma said after a while. "I just wanted us." "And now," Richard replied quietly, "I just want you." Months later, the Children's Center opened with laughter filling its bright halls. Emma stood at the entrance beside Richard and Ethan, cutting the ribbon. Reporters took photos, children ran around with balloons, and joy filled the air. Richard leaned close and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Emma smiled softly. "Thank you for finally showing up." Their hands met, not perfect, not new, but real. And as children's laughter echoed through the building, Emma felt peace wash over her heart. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't lonely. She wasn't invisible. She was loved, truly, deeply, and this time, by a man who finally understood her worth. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find the story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories, like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.